I am on the go with Miss Erika Alexander, and I wanted to say Shaw. That's so funny because you are just known around the world. We love you as Maxine Shaw, as well as Pam. Now, I know you've played both roles. You've been known for both roles. Weird question to you. Which role did you enjoy playing the most?
Between Cousin Pam and Max?
Definitely
Max.
Okay. Now, with that role as Maxine Shaw, you truly was an inspiration for a lot of African Americans to go into law, to go to school, period. How did that make you feel, and how true to Maxine Shaw would you say your everyday personality is to her?
Well, to be honest, there's no actor that can do a role that doesn't bring themselves to it. So I guess there's a lot of the strength that you see, a little of the loud talking and sass, and definitely there's a piece of me there. But she's very well educated in a way that I haven't been. So I haven't gone to college. I'm just a high school education. Okay. And I got some of the performance of that from my preacher father and my teacher mother, who stand in front of people for a living to do what they do. And I've been very happy and really flattered, in a different way, to see all the young people who may have seen that character and been influenced by it and maybe encouraged. Really it's about encouragement. It really goes down to representation matters. And it certainly mattered for me. There were less ingenues back in the day, and you could call her a professional ingenue, meaning a young person who had a job and a career and was making her way. She wasn't talking about it. She was there, but she also was, growing up a bit. Yeah. So that's why it's really nice to hear when people say that they were influenced by it, because it turns out that people like Marilyn Mosby and Mayor de Blasio and Stacey Abrams of Georgia have all told me that. Wow. And even this young lady here, Christina Ray, who's a wonderful filmmaker, looked at that character and saw something of themselves in it. Yeah. And that right there is, I got to give props to Yvette Lee Bowser, who created the character, but also a little bit to me for inhabiting it.
Well, you know what? We all want a girlfriend like Maxine, because you're fun and very bold, and we all need somebody to keep her real, and that she did. Still watch it today.
Thank you.
To change the mode a little bit, unfortunately, this week we had a lot of losses, major losses in society. We had Kate Spade, as well as the amazing chef Anthony Bourdain on yesterday, to suicide, depression, and those are things that I know are near and dear to your heart. You spoke earlier at an event, and regarding that, tell us why that's so important to you, and what your advice would be to those who just feel like their one bad day has turned into a bad month, a bad year. What would you say to those individuals?
It's unfortunate, as you say. We've had two very well-known people, Anthony Bourdain and, as you say, Kate Spade, suicide in the span of 3 days of each other.
Yes.
But for the community of color, especially the black community, it's a crisis that's been ongoing. So maybe people are talking about it now in a larger way, but they weren't but the need for it, and the need for the support and the accessibility to medical intervention and also therapists has been there for years. And unfortunately, it's been rising. So since 1999, there's been a 25% increase in the amount of people who have suicided in America. And so for every one white child that commits suicide, 2 of them for black children do so. We do it at twice the rate. And if you think of military and veterans, that goes up one, I think every 65 minutes pass away. We have a huge amount of elderly people who are committing suicide for various reasons. And they're not in just a moment for them. It's not a moment. It's a huge hole, or a return to an abyss that they keep trying to crawl out of often, and then they fall into. And after a while, it just gets so painful that they want to go. Now, many people can't imagine that type of pain that did ever in their life. For the people experiencing it, there doesn't seem any other way out. And it doesn't matter how accomplished they are, how rich, what kind of children they have, what kind of life they have. It could be all on the surface, really lovely and truly, supportive and wonderful. But they have decided that, it's not worth living, and they're going to go. And that's always going to be the case to some point. But unfortunately, this is it's unacceptable the amount of people who don't have access to therapy. When we look at children of color and we think that they're disruptive or angry or sullen, and many of them are depressed. In the African American community, we have people who go around with constant PTSD, and we go around, everyone in their family is depressed, and no one knows and can tell the difference because they all look like each other in terms of their outlook. So it's awareness. We need to definitely start to promote mental health and well-being as something that shouldn't be stigmatized. We need to call it for what it is. And we also need to put a lot of investment in it. Certainly in the African American community, we're overwhelmed with the amount of trauma that we're experiencing on a daily basis and the amount of money that needs to be involved. But people have usually experienced things in their childhood that they're carrying into their life.
That's so true.
And they're adults with huge scars. We just don't see them. So we need to make sure that we're reaching out to people and offering them some help and therapy, because sometimes listening is a beginning, but understanding is a huge, it can turn the tide.
Very true, very true. Now for today, to change skills on a more creative level, we have you here for this amazing event, which is
it's called Keep It Colorful.
Yes,
and it's an initiative that we're going to we think it's an aggressive initiative to talk to creators of color of all types. And we say creative colors, we're not just talking about skin tone.
Right.
Of course, we're talking about Asian, Latino, Black, all of that, but women, elderly, disabled, people who are marginalized in communities and outside of the Hollywood and New York system, people who they don't usually look for, or people who may be unprepared. They may have a lot of willpower, but they don't have the way. So we want to talk about those things and give them real structures and techniques that are proven, and that's why Christina is here, to show them that there's a different way to reach outside beyond their borders and their neighborhood and their families and friends to actually make and finish their productions, but also so that that we can create a community that starts talking to each other and can support.
What do Christina as well as Erika, what do you guys think African American first when they say, oh, well, you know what, we have become inclusive when it comes to the arts, when it comes to film and theater, because, you know, we've had Wrinkle in Time, we've had Black Panther, we've had, Shonda Rhimes, she's on ABC. They just see that as inclusive. What do you say to that, though? Because there's still a lack of Latinos that I don't see in film. There's not enough African Americans that I see in film. There's not enough those who are disabled that I see in film. What do you say to those individuals that say that? They feel that almost, I guess they feel entitled, that they feel their quote-unquote quota as to what they should see on the main screen and in film and in television. What would you say to that?
Well, you know, if you compare the numbers to representation on screen, and especially behind the scenes, to real life, they're just not accurate, you know, particularly outside of just kind of black and white. But when you're thinking about the Asian community and the Latino community, and particularly the LGBTQ community. And so really what we're trying to do with this initiative is to put the control in the creators' hands so that they can tell their story. And it isn't about trying to go through gatekeepers who are kind of, they have their own biases. They're kind of empowering people who they see themselves in. And often those decision makers tend to be white and male and older. And so we're really trying to shift that and create the opportunity for filmmakers to build their audience and make content through that audience. And
so you also are able to assist with the funding of that as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So Seed and Spark is a crowdfunding platform for film. We are about inclusion and underrepresented voices, and we kind of empower filmmakers to raise funds for their projects through the people that want to see what they want to make. And we do initiatives like the Keep It Colorful rally, where we sort of have the opportunity to get matching funds at the end of running a successful campaign. And we're really trying to create a sense of community where people can sort of, they don't feel so alone. They can really find their community and empower each other and collaborate and find ways to really get their work seen together.
Okay, so if there is someone out there that has a project that they want to have funded, how do they contact you, and what steps do they take to do that and contact your organization?
So they should go to seedandspark.com. There's a way to submit a project through our site. They can also email me directly, Christina@seedandspark.com. I'm always happy to talk to filmmakers. A big thing that we really try to do is have educational tours like the one that we're doing here, where we get out and talk to filmmakers one-on-one and tell them how to really strategically build their audience and engage them and make them feel like they have a creative part in the making of something that they want to watch. And so, I'm very much about face-to-face and just talking to people directly, and so people can absolutely reach out to me.
Excellent. Now, Erika, how do you feel about more? I remember one time I was speaking to Lamont Rucker, and he was talking about, not enough projects, for African Americans, for males. That's how he felt. And so he has his initiative that he put together to kind of help Black African American men find other projects. Do you feel that we have possibly increased in some of our projects as African American women? Because back in the day, it was Diane Carroll was the only one that we saw. But now, of course, because of Shonda Rhimes, we've seen some other Black African Americans on primetime television. How do you feel about that when it comes to African American women?
And how do I feel about their representation right now?
Yes.
It's actually pretty strong compared to a few years ago. I was on television at a time where it looked like things were on the rise.
Yes, it did.
So there was Living Color, there was Living Single, there was Family Matters, there was A Fresh Prince, there were all these things. And then they segregated television after year 2000. That's the truth. This is when they were making money.
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
And it just sort of all went away. And in fact, they said it was called, instead of saying a black cast, they said black shows.
Wow.
And that got relegated to so-called black channels, TV1, BET, and those places. And that's unfortunate because before even that time, and they started putting us on the same night, which they did with us when we were on, you could see the Jeffersons right after different strokes.
Right.
And, you were on the same night, and they mixed it up more. And, in fact, those stars that were very famous on, say, Magnum P.I. were just as famous on The Heat of the Night or some of those other shows. So we're getting back to it because of the emergence of Shonda Rhimes. She was excellent. And she was excellent to the point where they had to give her, she deserved other chances, and she got to create shows for people like Kerry Washington, who is gorgeous and became, to me, an ingenue in like the woman of desire on in a way that no one had ever done, by the way, on television, thanks to Shonda Rhimes, and then Viola Davis, which emerges as a true, full, fleshed out black woman of dark skin and non-traditional so-called beauty. It had never happened before on a network show for 1 hour. And then we started getting, there's other people who've been doing it.
And Stars.
Empire and people, and I don't want to say that, I'm not trying to say that there wasn't Girlfriends and Bernie Mac and all that. There were, but we had a real downfall, and now we're on the rise in terms of representation. But that doesn't mean that representation of Indian American culture and all the other cultures that are here in America, you don't see anybody. There's Mindy Kaling, and there are a few people fresh off the boat, and that type of stuff, and and Chinese American family and Korean American family, But where's the rest of everybody?
Yeah. Last question, and this is something that we just want to know, your take on everything that's happened with Me Too, Bill Cosby. Do you feel that, and this is what I think, because love the Cosby Show, love the what it portrayed for African Americans to see, doctor, lawyer, kids, and the rearing, what really goes on behind closed doors. Because we always think when you say African American that, we're hanging off the tree or our kids are wayward and this and that and the other. But there's a lot of families literally raising their families. And so there was such a shock with everything with Bill Cosby. And is it that we fell in love with Cliff Huxtable, and we were upset because of the Cliff Huxtable and not the Bill Cosby, because so many of us didn't necessarily know Bill Cosby, we knew Cliff Huxtable. Do you think that's what happened?
With him, he's so identified as Bill Cosby. Remember, it was the Cosby Show. And he played. That's
true.
That's the funny thing.
That's true.
We very much recognize Bill Cosby as Cliff Huxtable.
Right.
But we recognize Bill Cosby first.
Right.
Listen, it was for its time groundbreaking, not because it showed a family intact. We had the Jeffersons, we had Good Times, but it showed a family that wasn't struggling or talking about it. They seemed very normalized. They were in school. Of course, they had certain things that the advantages of having a doctor and a lawyer mother give you. They lived in Brooklyn Heights, all those
Lifted
things.
up education.
But they didn't have to say they were black. They were just black and
Very
being
good.
African American in New York. So they wore their kente cloth and their, Tippis had her strange hair. And Lisa Bonet had her strange way that seemed very hippie. And they didn't have to apologize for it. No one had to say, oh, we have to explain them. And it seems like that wouldn't be groundbreaking, but it was. And that was groundbreaking, just to present them as they were without explanation. And just say, yes, there's a family that exists, and they're doing okay. And their daily struggles are about life lessons and moral lessons of a so-called ordinary kind, but something that everybody struggles with.
Yeah. So do you think that was tarnished a bit with everything with Bill Cosby, or do you think that is something that we'll be able to still be very proud of and go to as a go-to for us, because that really was that and a different world, because it uplifted education and African Americans in education.
Well, I don't know how people feel personally, but I do think that there's a price to pay for the things you do in life, and it's right that it bleeds over into your work, and people start to layer that onto it. The funny thing is that the phenomenon was so huge and so world-changing that I think people have split that and said, that's the man, this is the character, depending on who you are. I'm not saying it's fair. I don't have an intentionality toward that. I'm just saying that's how it's gone, maybe because it was so dynamic. Having said that, it's not going to be the case for people going forward. And it shouldn't be the case for people going forward.
That's good. Well, I thank you so much for being on the go with Tiffany Patton here on iHeartRadio. And definitely this initiative, this event is just the start of more conversations to have inclusiveness and diversity in film, not only in film, but in television. And I thank you so much for being kind of the face and being able to take the brunt, because a lot of people can talk about it, but it takes somebody else to actually do something about it. We thank you so much.
By the way, we're going to other cities. So we'll be in Atlanta, we'll be in Los Angeles, we will be in perhaps Milwaukee. And keep it colorful. That's the hashtag. And please support us. We are looking for you. We hope that you want to be found. Because we already know you're great. We're just trying to create a path and a bridge from your production to results.
Well, you heard it here from Maxine Shaw. I mean, I just love her. I thank you so much for being on the go. You have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you.
Okay, it's time.